We were taught to blend in. Since childhood, we were rewarded for fitting the mold, for not making too much noise, for coloring inside the lines, for acting like everyone else. We were told, be good, be normal, be like them. But what if I told you that everything powerful inside you, your edge, your strength, your superpower, was never in your sameness? It was in your difference. Think about it. The people who changed the world, who inspired generations, they didn't fit in. They didn't seek approval. They didn't follow the crowd. In fact, most of them were laughed at, doubted, misunderstood. Not because they were wrong, but because they were real. Because they chose authenticity over acceptance. And you spent years hiding parts of yourself. Muting your voice, smiling when you wanted to scream. Agreeing when your gut said no. Why? Because the world taught you that being real was risky. That being you was too much, too loud, too different. But let me tell you the truth they never taught. Authenticity is power. Power isn't pretending. Power isn't wearing a mask that fits society's comfort. Real power is standing in your truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it makes others nervous. Because when you're real, you can't be controlled. You're no longer begging for validation. You become the source. They say, fake it till you make it. But that's not how legacy is built. That's how exhaustion is built. That's how people lose themselves. You don't fake it, you face it. You face the truth of who you are. You own your flaws, your fire, your madness, and you use them. That's authenticity. That's what they fear. You see, being authentic doesn't mean being loud. It doesn't mean oversharing. It means being aligned. Your words match your values. Your actions match your beliefs. You walk into a room and don't shrink. You don't wear a mask just to fit the vibe. You become the vibe. The lie we believed, that we have to be liked to be successful, that's false. You have to be real to be successful. Real attracts real. And the minute you step into your truth, the right people, the right opportunities, and the right energy will find you. But it all starts when you stop hiding. People may not understand you, and that's okay. You weren't born to be understood by everyone. You were born to express, to create, to lead, to inspire. And none of that happens if you're playing small just to be accepted by the crowd. What they think of you is none of your business. There's something magnetic about a person who's real. Not perfect, not polished, just real. The kind of person who walks into a room and doesn't need attention, but gets it anyway. Why? Because authenticity radiates. It draws people, and not because it's flashy, but because it's rare. In a world addicted to filters, trends, and validation, someone who dares to be raw, unfiltered, and unshakably themselves becomes unforgettable. That's the kind of energy that moves mountains. That's the kind of presence that shifts rooms. And here's the truth, real wins in the end, every time. You can fake it and play the part for a while. You can impress strangers with a curated image, but eventually the act wears thin, the mask cracks. And when it does, the world sees the truth. That's why authenticity is more than just a nice idea. It's a strategy for lasting impact. It's your foundation. Because when you're real, you're consistent. You're not trying to remember who to be today. You're not adjusting to every room you walk into. You're just you. And that consistency builds trust. It builds loyalty. It builds legacy. People don't follow perfection. They follow courage. They follow those who aren't afraid to be seen fully. They follow the ones who speak up, even if their voice shakes. The ones who lead with their scars, not in spite of them, but because of them. The real ones. Because when you're real, you're relatable. And when you're relatable, you're powerful. People don't need another hero on a pedestal. They need someone who reminds them that it's okay to be flawed, to be human, to be in progress. So stop waiting for permission. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable. Stop hiding parts of yourself just to fit in with people who were never meant to walk with you anyway. The moment you choose to stand in your truth, fully and unapologetically, is the moment you become unstoppable. Not because you're the loudest, not because you're the smartest, but because you're the most real, and real can't be copied. Real can't be manufactured. Real can't be replaced. And yes, some people will be uncomfortable with your truth. Some will distance themselves when you stop pretending. Let them, that's the filter doing its job, because the ones who remain, those are your people. The ones who see you, not the mask, not the version of you built to survive, but the real you and stay. That's real love. That's real connection. That's real life. Don't let this world trick you into thinking your uniqueness is a liability. It's not, it's your edge. Your difference is your leverage. Your story, with all its twists and bruises, is your power. Stop downplaying it. Stop dimming your light. Start owning it. Start sharing it. Because someone out there is waiting for your truth to wake up theirs. You weren't made to blend in. You were made to break patterns, to inspire, to shake things up. So wear your truth like armor. Speak your story like it matters, because it does. Show up as the most honest version of yourself and watch how life begins to respond differently. Watch how doors open, how your tribe finds you, how your energy multiplies. Because when you step into authenticity, you don't just change your life. You give permission for others to change theirs too. So here's your reminder: the real ones win. The honest ones, the messy ones. The growing, learning, fearless, their truth ones, the ones who show up. The ones who stay solid in a world made of glass. The ones who stop pretending and start living. Authenticity isn't just your superpower. It's your legacy. There's a strange kind of weight we carry when we try to be someone we're not. It's invisible, but it's heavy. It slows you down. You feel it in every conversation where you can't say what you really think. In every smile you force. When your soul wants to scream. In every moment you hold back because you're afraid of how the truth might land. Pretending is exhausting. And most people don't realize how much of their energy is being drained not by work or life, but by the performance. By the constant mental editing, the filtering, the need to be accepted, approved, liked. But the moment you decide to stop pretending, to stop adjusting who you are for the comfort of others, a new kind of lightness takes over. It's not arrogance. It's not rebellion. It's freedom, and it's real. Authenticity doesn't just empower you, it liberates you. When you stop faking who you are, you start remembering who you've always been. You start reconnecting with the parts of yourself that you buried to survive. The parts you were told were too much, too intense, too honest. But those weren't flaws, they were fire. And the second you give yourself permission to stop shrinking, you begin to breathe differently. You walk into rooms with clarity instead of anxiety. You speak without rehearsing lines in your head. You wake up without the weight of keeping a false image alive. That is peace. That is power. And that is priceless. The world is full of noise. Everyone trying to be something, to prove something, to sell something. And in that noise, the most powerful thing you can be is still. Still in your truth, still in your values, still in your identity. You no longer flinch at rejection because rejection doesn't sting when you know you're not lying about who you are. You no longer crave applause because you're not performing. You're just being fully, fearlessly, and unapologetically. And that kind of stillness cuts through the noise like thunder. You see, when you're real, your mind gets quieter. You stop overthinking every word, every move. You stop seeking signs of approval like a starving animal. You no longer panic when people don't respond the way you hoped. Why? because you're no longer reacting, you're grounded. You've returned to your center. And from that place, decisions become easier. Relationships become healthier. Success becomes more sustainable. You attract people who value you for you, not the version you perform. You build things that last because they're built on truth, not image. And let's be honest, people may not always like the real you. That's the risk, but the reward is so much greater. Because the ones who do stay, the ones who stand by you, not because of what you offer them, but because of who you are, those are the people who matter. The ones who don't flinch at your honesty, the ones who embrace your imperfections, the ones who love the version of you that doesn't need to impress. That's where true connection begins. Not in perfection, but in truth. Authenticity is a filter, a divine one. It removes the noise, the fake friends, the exhausting performances. It makes space, and in that space you find clarity. You find peace. You find your real self, often for the first time in years. And once you taste that kind of freedom, you'll never go back. You won't be able to. Because the pain of faking it again becomes unbearable once you've lived as yourself, fully, raw, and frida. So if you're tired, maybe it's not your job, maybe it's not your schedule, maybe you're just tired of acting, maybe your soul is begging for rest, not physical, but spiritual. The kind of rest that only comes when you stop lying to yourself. When you stop molding yourself to fit boxes that were never made for you. Because the truth is, you were never meant to be caged by approval. You were meant to be free in your truth. And that truth, that's your compass, that's your peace, that's your power. When one person decides to show up as their true self, something incredible happens, not just to them, but to everyone around them. Authenticity isn't just a personal revolution. It's a contagious fire that spreads, quietly igniting others. Because when someone dares to live real, raw, and unfiltered, it gives the silent permission to everyone else watching. You can be real too. You don't have to pretend anymore. You don't have to keep up appearances, wear the mask, or chase applause that doesn't even satisfy your soul. The moment you let go of the noise, you become the calm in the storm for someone else. Your courage becomes their compass. Your truth becomes their mirror. It's not about being perfect. It's about being honest. And that honesty starts echoing. Think about it. Every great movement, every deep connection, every true leader, they weren't the loudest. They were the realest. Their strength didn't come from fake confidence. It came from unwavering alignment with who they were. When you're authentic, you're magnetic. Not because you're trying to impress, but because people can feel. When you're real, the world is starving for sincerity. In a sea of filters and fakeness, your rawness becomes rare. And rarity always holds value. When you dare to speak your truth, someone else finds the words they couldn't say. When you show your scars, someone else realizes they're not alone in their pain. When you live unashamed, someone else feels free to stop hiding, and that ripple, that invisible impact, is what changes lives. Not through followers or fame, but through energy, through presence, through being the one in the room who doesn't need to impress, because they're too busy being true. And that kind of presence silences the noise. It cuts through the performance. It inspires without even trying. You become a living permission slip. You become the one who reminds others that they are enough as they are. That truth doesn't have to be polished. It just has to be real. And when more people start living from that place, the world gets louder with sincerity and softer with grace. Friendships get deeper. Work becomes more meaningful. Even strangers feel a little less alone. All because you chose to stop pretending. Your authenticity is not small. It is not passive. It is a declaration, and once declared, it cannot be undone. It leaves a mark, not on just your journey, but on the paths of every person your light touches. You may never see all the lives you affect just by being true. But trust this. Someone, somewhere, will breathe easier because you existed without apology. So, if you're still wondering if your authenticity matters, it does, more than you know. You don't need millions watching. Sometimes the most powerful ripple starts with just one honest heartbeat spoken out loud. Let the world adjust to your truth, not the other way around.